Angelina.
When talking about history, most of the time, great empires and kingdoms tend to take the spotlight, such as the Roman Empire, the Mongol Empire, the English and French empires, and even the Ottoman Empire. Thus, often great stories tend to be overshadowed by these Goliaths. In this video, we'll be talking about one such story, the story of Serbia, and how this modern-day conflict-ridden country came to be from its also conflict-ridden past. Serbia is located in the heart of the Balkans, characterized by valleys hidden among mountains covered in dense forests. 3,000 years ago, modern Serbia did not exist. Generally, this region was inhabited by Illyrian and Thracian tribes, which some countries still like to bring up anytime any discussion about the Balkans is going on. However, during the 4th century BC, the Greeks decided to spread out and subsequently ended up in the south of this territory. In the 2nd century BC, the Roman Empire started spreading to the Balkans and conquered most of the modern-day Serbia's territory. Serbia was then divided into 3 provinces within the empire, being Illyricum, Moesia, and Pannonia. During this time period, as well, 3 of Serbia's well-known cities came into existence. The first one being Singidunum, aka modern-day Belgrade, which was used by the Romans as a border settlement from which they would repel invading Germanic tribes and also train their troops. Another city formed here was Sirmium, aka Sremska Mitrovica, which in its day was considered to be the 4th largest city in the late Roman Empire, which is quite a feat for a city that now has barely over 40,000 inhabitants. And finally, Serbia's 3rd largest city, Niš, or in Latin, Nisus. However, much like 50% of marriages in the US, the Roman Empire days were numbered. In 285 AD, the Roman Empire split like my parents, and Serbia went to the Eastern Empire, now known as Byzantium. Evidently, in the 5th century, the Western Empire fell due to barbarian invasions. However, this was only the beginning of Serbia, as in the plains of Poland, a new tribe was getting ready to spread its wings and explore the world. That tribe being none other than the Slavs. With the end of the 6th century, the Balkans saw a new era, the one of Slavic migration into the region. During the 6th and 7th century, the Byzantine Empire saw conflict on 2 sides of its empire. On the northwestern side, it was fighting the Avar Khanate, and on the east side, it was fighting against the Sassanid Empire. The Avar Khanate consisted of great numbers of Slavs, so in 626, a great Avar army headed towards Constantinople, the capital of Byzantium. At the same time, the Sassanid navy also headed towards the Bosphorus Strait, as the 2 empires made an agreement to help each other in the conquest of Byzantium. However, the 2 were unable to penetrate the walls of the city and ultimately were unsuccessful in their conquest. With the defeat of the Avars, many Slavs started to settle in the Balkans. As the Byzantines were still preoccupied with fighting on their west, they weren't able to defend themselves from the oncoming Slavic tribes. Among these Slavic tribes were the White Serbs, a tribe that was located on the territories of eastern Germany, Poland, and Czechia. In the 7th century, during the migrations, the White Serb tribe was divided among 2 brothers, where one decided to take half of the tribe and go down to Byzantium, where they would seek refuge from the Byzantine Emperor Heraclius. The emperor would give the Serbs land around Thessaloniki. However, many decided after all to head back home to their barbarian families. But after they crossed the Danube, they changed their minds and settled in Illyricum. Then in the 8th century, Serbia gained its first monarchic dynasty, the Vlastimirovic dynasty. It's also worth mentioning that around this time, Serbia was getting Christianized. Many started merging their pagan beliefs and traditions with Christian ones. Eventually, this process would be intensified with the appearance of 2 Byzantine missionaries, Cyril and Methodius, who actively Christianized the Slavic population and introduced them with their own writing system now known as the Cyrillic alphabet. The first ever known prince of Serbia was Vyacheslav Lastimirović. During the reign of Vyacheslav, most if not all Serbs in the region were united under one dynasty. Originally, Vyacheslav saw the principality under the control of Byzantium. However, eventually Serbia gained its independence from the empire, while also managing to create an alliance with their ex-overlords. During this time, the Bulgarians saw rapid expansion in the peninsula as they conquered more and more territory under the Byzantines. For the first part of Serbia's existence, the principality had good relations with Bulgaria. However, in the 9th century, things escalated downwards like an alcoholic falling down stairs, and war emerged between the two. Initially, Bulgaria instigated first its aim to conquer Raška. The Serbian army was in the beginning beaten by the Bulgarians. However, under the leadership of Lastimir Vlastimirović, the Serbs were able to fend off the Bulgarians with medieval guerrilla war tactics. Then by the end of the 9th century, a peace treaty was signed and Serbia was able to keep existing. Then in the 10th century, war broke out again with the Bulgarians. This time Serbs were victorious against an initial attack. However, after recouping its military, Bulgaria led a stronger and harder attack on Serbia, which ended in the annexation of the principality. The then Prince of Serbia, Chaslav, ended up being taken prisoner by the Bulgarians and taken back to Bulgaria. Chaslav would then break out of prison and run back to Serbia, where he would attempt to free the country. However, he would end up dying on the Sava River. Bulgaria held over Serbian land for roughly 1 century, up until Byzantium kicked Bulgaria's ass and took over Serbia once more. But in the mid-11th century, Serbia once more gained its independence after it successfully managed to revolt against the Byzantines under the leader of Stefan Vojislav. Stefan Vojislav came onto the scene by starting up a Serbian revolt in the province of Duklja. Initially, the revolt was unsuccessful and Stefan would end up in prison in Constantinople. After 1 year of living under the great medieval prison conditions, Stefan would break out of prison and head back towards Serbia, where he would lead a second revolt against the Byzantines. As with the news of Stefan becoming free, many Serbs would join his revolt, which would ultimately end in Serbia becoming once more a principality. The final blow for Byzantines for Serbian independence was the Battle of Bar, where the Serbian army led by Stefan would ambush the Byzantines during the night, which ended in a decisive Serbian victory. After the death of Stefan, the princedom of Serbia would fall into the hands of Mihailo I. With Serbia becoming a newly born princedom once more, the country decided to improve ties with the Pope and the Normans, as the Byzantines weren't all too happy with the princedom seceding from the empire. During his reign, Serbia gained the title of kingdom as a result of Mihailo's improved relations with the Pope. After his death, Mihailo's son, Constantine Bodin, came onto the throne. When Bodin entered the stage, the country was already at war with the Byzantines. Thus, throughout most of his reign, the kingdom saw conflict. Under Bodin, Serbia was able to conquer the city of Dirachum, aka modern-day Durash, in Albania. As the Byzantines found themselves in political chaos, the city was ripe for the taking. The Byzantines were able to take back the city later on, but let's not talk about that. Serbia also established vassals in Bosnia, and during Bodin's reign, the First Crusade was taking place. Many crusaders went through Serbia, where the Serbs agreed to protect them and provide food and supplies for their cause. And at the beginning of the 12th century, Constantine Bodin kicked the bucket, which put the country into chaos. With the death of Bodin, Serbia became divided into 3 separate countries: Bosnia, Raška, and Duklja. Before Bodin died, he put Vukan Vukanović in charge of Raška, who then would go on to unify Serbian lands once more under the same flag. After Vukan came his descendant, Desa. Under him, Serbia became a Byzantine vassal. During his rule, Serbia tried creating stronger ties with other European states, however ended up ultimately failing and falling in the shadow of Byzantium after losing a war with them. Byzantium then ended up putting a guy known as Tihomir Zavidović onto the Serbian throne. Now, under a set of complicated circumstances, Tihomir ends up giving away his land to different family members, one of whom were none other than Stefan Nemanja. What then occurs is an event which I can only describe as the Serbian Game of Thrones, as barely even historians know what the hell went on. Either way, Stefan Nemanja emerges victorious and starts his own dynasty, known as the Nemanjić dynasty. Fun fact, during this time, the arguably most important Serbian medieval literature piece was written, Miroslavljevo Evangelje, aka Miroslav's Gospel. As Stefan came to the throne, he accepted Byzantine rule and essentially rendered himself